I mean, obviously knowing you and what your swing tendencies, I truly doubt that it's anything other than your body that can cause that huge of a change in your contact. Because what we were working on last was getting your pressure more forward, which should do just the opposite. It should help your contact. Definitely shouldn't be hitting it fat. No. But if your glutes strain and you can't push,
and
of course you might get
stuck. I was playing, I would tell myself right before, turn. So I could tell my body to turn versus I could feel that I was just armsy.
Yeah. If your body's hurting, you're going to protect it, right?
Right.
So you're going to start using your arms, which is the exact opposite of what we want.
Right.
Because what we worked on last time was freeing up a lot more.
And I've been working on it really hard, and then I strained my body, and I was like,
of course. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like that's all you need. Well, we know that if your body's hurt and you're trying to protect it, and you go all arms, you're going to be all arms on the way back.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be ugly. I mean, it's going to be all timing, and your contact's going to be bad. If you're not able to get that push or that pressure forward, or be able to turn because of your strain, it's going to be ugly. And, you know, I mean, obviously, the last thing you want to hear is this, but it's reality. If it's like that, the reality is it's better to not try to play through this because you're going to ingrain really bad stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Rather than trying to just actually, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to rest this, get it healed, and then I'm going to go back to working on what I should. You know? So just go ahead and move as much as you can and loosen up a little bit. Hit a few and just loosen up. And, you know, if nothing else, we'll confirm what we probably are thinking. And we'll talk about some things that, if nothing else, once again, when you feel better, you can kind of focus on, you know? That's the key. Where do you feel it most, Alex? Is it in the
on my back
swing?
swing.
Okay.
So I can tell when I'm going like this, it restricts me from going further.
Yep.
So that's why when I'm over the ball, I tell myself turn, turn.
Yep.
And so it reminds me to turn and not let my body get locked up.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's too in your left knee a lot. You know, you always want to keep it out external. You always want to have it out. And letting this thing work in is huge. I mean, you'll see the guys with the biggest hip turn let their heels even come up a bit. And that's obviously very much an option because it really frees things up. But like letting this whole leg rotate, see this turns together and that comes in, that's the easiest way to get a big hip turn. Okay? Just letting this ball turn instead of being here, keeping that, see how it locks me? Because I'm compressed in and this is here. Instead of letting it extend up and letting that come in. It's understanding how to do that that'll make it easier on your body as well. So it's like, just letting that come in and see that way the knee and that knee's rotating, that femur's rotating, and this one's working inward, right? And that's going to free up a lot more turn so that, you know, see if you keep this out here, feel how much harder that is to turn your hips? And that's what you like to do a lot. So let that come in, and you know, I mean, simple things for that, like just while you're practicing, once you feel better, is to have something like a foam roller there, and feel like you knock it over, because you're working that knee in. You know what I mean? So like, if I was like, because I have students like this a lot, and none of them get hip turn, but if I had this here, and I had it right there, and felt like I just kind of knocked it inward every time, that's a good thing to think about, because obviously if you're keeping that external, you won't even touch it, right? And you can see how much less hip turn. And all of a sudden I let that go and I can get a lot more, okay? So that's one way to really help free that up. And especially if you're hurt, you obviously don't want to restrict anything right now. The last thing you want to do is put stretch or strain on those strained muscles already, right? That overdraw curve is a sign of lack of rotation, right? I love it. You're so funny. You always have that look because you know what I think because you've heard me and you're probably tired of hearing it, but you hear the same things because you know you've learned a lot. See, right here, you're done. Done turning. So look, the rest of this is going to be arms work. So that's just that arm run on. Now, here's the thing. We'll talk about this, but those hips, believe it or not, aren't turned much, okay?
Aren't turned much?
Aren't turned that much,
Yeah.
okay? That's probably like 30 degrees of hip turn, okay? And again, I think I mentioned before, like Lexi gets like 60 degrees. So you're about half of where she's at, okay? Now, the way to look at that is, again, the best way is the stick thing we did before, but the reason I'm going to just mention this is if you look at where your hips are, okay? When you turn, I bet your hips are getting to about right there, okay? And look at how much more you can really get. See how much more hip turn? That's how you get that extra shoulder turn. Here's the deal. As we get older, we have to take advantage of mobility. Because the fact is, you can't wrench your back against stable hips. It's just not a good idea. You'll end up with major back problems. And the problem with it right now is if you don't turn, if you don't finish your turn, you're going to slide. And if you slide with extension, remember what your doctor even confirmed, it's the biggest way people hurt their back, is this move right here, where there's a slide and an extension. So it's like this. That's going to kill your back. That's why we like to clear first, around, and then this way. See? But you're not able to do that if you don't turn that in the backswing. Because otherwise we don't have the turn to make the depth. The other option, if you want to stay with your turn, we have to just accept that you're going to lose a lot of speed as a result, and you're going to have to get your arm structure lower. So I'm going to show you. Look, stand right here. Just so you can, like, while you're hurt, if nothing else, this might be a good option. If it's hurting to turn. So take it back once to the top. And see, you would be more like this. If you stopped your turn more at 90 or 80, 90 degrees a turn, okay, you're going to have to be lower. And the reason being is now you can start rotating from there. Watch, start turning. And see, you can still have depth. Whereas if you try to get up here and you don't have enough turn, you're going to rotate and be right there. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you have to match, you have to match up your arm structure with your amount of turn. And it's all based on this lead shoulder. That's the key. If that thing stops traveling, then our arm structure needs to be lower. It's exactly what Tommy Armour does with George. He said, hey, I don't want to turn that much. And he said, well, you better match up your arm swing, which is more over here. See, because what that's doing is getting you deeper over here, right? Because if you're up here, you lose depth, okay? That's better for speed, but this is better to match up with less turn, okay? So, obviously there's two options, and you can still hit it pretty good, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's no reason, if you have good impact alignments and you have everything else working, there's no reason you lose a ton of distance. You'll lose maybe 10 yards, 15 yards, but in the end, the reality is if you don't turn, it's a better matchup, okay? So, if you're gonna have the amount of hip turn you had right there, which got us, I mean, if you look at the top here, like, to be fair with you, let's look at the top. I'd say you got about 85, 90 degrees of shoulder turn, if there was a measurement on it right there, okay? So that would mean that your arm structure has to be low, okay? See how it's still upwards, our traditional? So we need that lower if you want to match with that turn. That's all I'm saying, okay? Then let's see what happens in the down. Okay, shallower, good. Getting under plane, which is why you overdrew it. And that's just a lack of chest rotation, okay? So really for you, the thing that's happened for so long, and the reason you always end up with that chest closed out, is that without a good turn, originally, you had a limited turn because you kept your hips from turning. You were like this, okay? So that didn't give you much turn. So your matchup had to be to get all this back here so you could be under. Otherwise, if you would have just done rotation, you would have been so deep and across. I mean, you would have been digging trench divots. You'd have been hitting huge slices and been like, what the heck, this sucks. So you matched it up properly. Yeah. But the problem is that matchup relies on timing, ultimately. And that's the reason we don't like that and teach it. A lot of guys play that way. A lot of guys on the PGA Tour and a lot of girls on the PGA Tour. But they practice 6 hours a day and they've done it since they were 3 years old. It's not the easiest way to play, okay? And they're going to either be on or off their game. Okay? So what we'd rather, yeah, exactly. So for you, like what happens is, you had to keep your chest back because you were limited with your turn. You had about 90 degrees. Well, with 90 degrees, again, if we rip open, look where our hands are. They're out too early. So the reason that you keep it back is you're smart and you know you need to, so it's your fix for that lack of enough turn. So what happens is you kind of start with your legs like we want, but your chest stays back to keep it back here. See the difference? And then it stays back, okay? And then it stays back. And that's where it's at the bottom. And when we keep back, something's got to give at the bottom. And that's when you're going to have that closed face. So right now, I would look at this swing and tell you right off the bat, you're definitely hitting some pull draws, pull hooks. And I would say you're probably also, potentially, if you try to compensate and hold it off, you may hit some blocks to the right of you. Because you're under the plane and your face is tending to close.
I was blocking the ball, but it was due to this glute problem.
We'll say that. No, but in seriousness, I mean, your tendency is definitely to be a little underplaying. I mean, I would say overall, because of the chest not rotating enough, you get a little under. Okay, so that would match up with what? An open or a closed club face? Let's do some quizzing because you really like
an open. Open.
Yes, correct. Very good. So we want to start the ball to the right. Good guess. You had a 50-50 again. So we know that you're starting it right for a draw, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good matchup. But if your face shuts, if we have our chest closed and we're coming into the ball with closed chest on an early release, is that going to open or close the club face? Don't answer yet because I don't want you to get it wrong.
It's going to close it.
Good job. Very good. See? Look. See what happens? Shaft lean's going to do what? Keep it more open, right? Because of the tendency of having the handle forward. Okay. So, my point is, the early release chest back tends to lead to a closed face. That's not a good matchup for a path that's too far to the right, swinging in and out. Because that's going to put right to left curve on a ball that starts where? If the face is closed, where's the ball starting?
Right.
Wrong. Right, wrong. So if the face closes, it starts left. Because look.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it starts left, and then it curves a lot more left. That's a bad matchup, right? Yeah. So we know we need to start it to the right for it to curve.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
So here's the deal. Obviously, you can look at this in a couple ways. You could say, well, here's the deal, Jake. I'm not feeling great. I want to match this up. Well, here's what you do. You get your arm structure lower, if that's what you want, like for tomorrow. Get your arm structure a little bit lower and rotate a lot harder through the ball. But even simpler, because you have a match. What did you say, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the way that I would like to approach it.
It's not like that important to me.
No, I know. But like you'd like to
play good.
Yeah, of course you would rather not hit it the way you have it.
Right.
So, super simple way to do this, which is probably the smartest way, when you have a match tomorrow. Because if you get all technical right now, what good is that going to do?
Yeah.
It's not going to help you. So I'm going to make a simple thing for now. We're going to do a little work with it, just keeping you on top of the stick like we've done. Okay? What's that do? It forces rotation. You have to, or you'll be under it and you'll hit it. So rather than fill your head with a bunch of thoughts, let's keep it simple for now. Now let's get you hitting a little bit better so you can have fun. And then we'll give you something to work on when you feel better, right? Because there's no reason to grind out a bunch of stuff with a strained muscle. I'd rather just get you to hit some kind of a pattern, right? So you can be like, okay, my contact's better, and I've got some kind of a pattern. At least I feel like I can go play a little golf, right? Okay, that's what I would recommend for now. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay, so let's set this stick up real quick. Because that last ball, obviously, your face was better on that one. You were able to control it, and you had to start on a decent line. But the problem is, it started basically straight. So do you want to draw to start at the flag?
Do I want to draw to start at the flag?
Yeah. Exactly. We'll pretend we didn't do it the first time. if you started at the flag and it curves further left, that's not good. So we got to start it right of it. So in this particular instance, it didn't get your path, but I know it was at least 3 or 4 degrees to the right, just from what I'm seeing. Okay, so you have 2 options: be less to the right with your path, or open your face more. One of the 2. That produces a better shot and result for you, right? So what gets you more less to the right with your path? You think sliding gets it more to the left, or rotating? Exactly. So more rotation would get the path more neutral. And what would help the closed club face? What would keep your face more open? I just talked about it a couple minutes ago.
Opening the face more.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could either start with it a little open or get a touch more shaftly, right? And let's see where you release. A little early, right? In the middle of your body. Okay? Yep. So the reason, what happens here is we get into these like rabbit holes, basically. So you hit a little fat, what do? You want to move the ball back in your stance, right? And then you start pushing what? What does that do to your path? This one will be a good one. If you can get this one right, I'll be proud. Okay? So if you move this ball back in your stance, if you move it back here, think about it. Does that make our path more right or left? You got a 50-50 shot. It was right.
It was right?
Yeah. It's to the right. So look, here's why. Set up to it, because I want you to understand this. Okay? So watch. Think about this. We have an arc that comes in, right? Okay. So look, take one back halfway. Now, all of a sudden, this ball is back here more. Where are you catching that in the arc? More in the early part of the arc, right? Where it's more end to out, correct? So now, conversely, I'm going to move it way up here. Where is it going to be catching in the arc? When it's starting to arc back around, right? Would that be more right or left? Exactly. So the further forward you have the ball, the more you actually end up with the path going left. Now, rather than throwing Band-Aids on things though, because I mean, you can sit there and go, well, if I'm too into out, why don't I just move my ball forward? Well, the problem is, if you're already hitting it fat, you think that's going to work out very well? No. And it's also going to cause you to set up differently. You might start opening your chest, you might start doing some other things that aren't good. So we don't like throwing Band-Aids on, but I want you to understand, for you, subconsciously, if you hit fat, you're gonna want to creep the ball back, but there is consequences of that. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because then we got more curve to the right, and we're already a little too far to the right. So what happens? Then we start getting big old hooks, right? Snap hooks, overdraws, all that. So that's why we got to be a little bit careful how we go about things, right? So let's do this for you. Let's set this up, and we're going to hit some over the top of this, okay? So take a swing slowly. You're going to go over and over. Yep, over in the back, yeah, yep. So I'm going to get it in the right place for you. So let's hit from right about here. Yep, right up there. And I'll just take one slow back once. I want to see where this is at. Perfect. Yeah. And then see if you turn back down into that, your contact should be a lot better right away. See what I thought? See how that thing gets behind? So that's a great drill for you. You're not going to love it because it's going to annoy you, but it's going to help you learn to rotate, right? So I'm going to show you something really cool. We're going to get you less under, and you're going to start hitting it better. Is this looking on this stuff here? Okay, that should work. So what do you think it's going to do? Let me ask you this.
Is this going to make me more steep?
It's gonna make you less in and out, yes.
Okay.
Not steep. Well, it's gonna help angle of attack.
Okay.
Okay, so look, if we're swinging in, set up to it. If we're swinging into this ball and we're coming super shallow, do you think it's gonna be easier to bottom out back here, or do you think it's going to be really good, clean contact? Exactly. Whereas if you're coming over this, which is more on plane, don't you think it's gonna be easier to strike down on that ball a little more? Have a little more angle of attack. That's going to help you a lot with your contact as well. The more you get back here with this chest closed out, the more you want to release it.
Oh, I see.
That's why you're hitting that. Okay? So here's the deal. Try this slow. Try one real slow. I want you to take it up to the top and stop. Okay? Good. Now watch this. This is going to be your feeling. Start turning. That's how it's going to feel to you. You're going to feel way out and across. That's the feel. So you're not near that noodle. So take one up at the top and hit it mellow. I just want you to feel that. That's just the opposite of where you normally are. Good job. See? You were able to do it. Now, that feels across and steep, right?
Right.
But watch. I bet it's not. Well, I know it's not because it's still 5 degrees in down. So you must have been way in down. If you're that much right now, so let's take a look. Watch how much more there. See?
Oh, yeah.
See that? Looks way better over there. See, that's why. And, you know, obviously, I'm not going to give you a hard time about staying because you have an excuse to do it, right? But look, I mean, look at this, though. Look where your impact already is. See the difference? Way more forward. Your contact's going to get better quickly. And see, you're stuck on your right side because of your injury probably too. Yeah. And so if you can't get that through, there is going to be a little bit of throw and release there. And so you're going to have to play for that while you're injured. And we'll talk about that. But the first thing, you can see we're definitely not steep. That's not steep at all. Okay, we're still 5 degrees into out. Now, let me ask you this. 5.5 path, 2 degree face. You're already laughing. What do you think about that matchup? Do you think that's ideal, or what would you think would?
5.5, 2 degree face.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So what do we want really? What ratio do we like? I've told you many times, but you probably forgot.
Kind of like the similar matchups.
Well, we want a 2 to 1. 2 to 1. Okay. So we want a 2 to 1 ratio. Good job. So look, if we had a 5 degree, let's call it a 5. We'd want a 2.5 face, right?
Okay.
So that's pretty close.
Okay.
Now, what would that do if you had a face that was a little less than 2 to 1? Well, it probably wouldn't quite draw back to your target.
Okay.
That's not going to kill you, right? I mean, it might be 5 feet or 10 feet right of where you aim. Okay? No big deal. That's not a terrible matchup. The only thing is 5 degrees is still quite a bit into out. And that's with the drill where we're trying to exaggerate the opposite.
Okay.
So I would say I would much rather see you around 0 to 2 on your path, and then we could have much smaller numbers.
Okay.
Remember, in the end, small numbers mean small misses.
Yeah.
Okay? The ones you're hitting really far off, you're getting like probably 8 or 10 degrees in out.
Okay.
And then you're closing your face. That's death. I mean, that's a full snap hook. Okay? So we just want to get this path. I'm going to creep this and make it harder and harder, but do it slow, freezers, okay? Because I want to see you get over this thing. Okay, so I'm going to actually move it right back here. Because right now, see, I don't like that thing where your hands can hit it. See how I'm getting it far enough back where your hands can't hit it? It's the club more, right? Okay. You're laughing, knowing, you're wondering how you're going to get over this. Okay, so do it one more time. You can make it over that. Just take it up there, watch. Try it again. Go up the top. Now watch. Start turning. Look where your club is. Is it even close to that? Not even close, is it? Okay, so you can make it. Give that a shot. Stop. Good. Better contact, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So, I mean, considering you're stuck on your right side, you can at least play golf like that.
Yeah.
Okay? So we're trying to work around an injury, which is always challenging, right? Because right now you're stuck on your right side, your pressure's staying a little back, which is going to cause what? Some fat shots.
Yeah.
It will. Okay? So, right now, you may need to throw a Band-Aid on because you're hurt. And if you're playing tomorrow, I don't like throwing Band-Aids, you know that, but if you're like, okay, well, I chunk them all day or I move the ball back a little in my stance, then I would choose to move the ball back for a day. And then rest and heal so you can get back to doing the right thing. Does that make sense?
And that's what I've been doing. I've been putting the ball back a little bit.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though. You just got to understand it's going to make your path more right. Which means what? If your path's right and that's a given, what do you have to do with your face?
I got to open it.
Absolutely. Okay? So if you're going to move the ball back in your stance, it's going to push the path right. But that'll help your contact while you're injured and you can't get off your right side. But you better open your face. So here's the deal. I don't want to teach you to open your face in your swings. That would be disastrous. It would take away a lot of the work we've done. So I would set up with it a little bit open and match it up with this under path, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so let's try one. Set up to it. we're just trying to work around an injury and give you something to golf with right now, right? So I would put it back, maybe a ball, and then I would open the face, then grip it, okay? Just try it right from there once. And you're gonna go up and freeze, same deal. And you're gonna miss the thing. Yeah? See, the contact's better. Yeah, exactly. See, the contact's better, and you weren't starting it left because you actually opened the face. So here's the deal. When we play draw, we want to start with an open face because we're returning the face to where it started. So you shouldn't set up with a face that's aimed at the flag because you're going to return it to the flag, which is 0, right? And we don't want to start a draw at the flag. We talked about that, correct? So if we're going to get it started more right, we got to start with the face open. Okay? Now, do we need it wide open? No. But if your path is very end out, you better match it up with an open face. Because the terrible matchup here that's killing you is if your path is well right and your face is shut or even square, you're in big trouble. You're going to hit a big old hook or an overdraw. It's going to start at target or start left and curve a lot more. And that's the one that's going to get you, right?
That's what it does. He closes his face a lot.
Yep.
He aims way right.
Oh yeah, yeah. He plays a matchup, and he knows how to match that up.
And I've told him a million times, your face needs to be more open.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And you don't have to aim for the right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
that would be an easier, better way to go about it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So let's actually have it a few more like that. That looks decent. I mean, considering what you're having to work with right now, with your injury, I mean, look, stuck there, but you're still able to control your contact and your flight. Are we able to turn through if we're stuck on our right side? No. See, you're stuck back there, and that's why your chest stops a touch, and then, see, you're really trying to nurse the injury there.
Right.
Which, I mean, if we're hurting, we're not going to want to make it hurt, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's normal. That's where, honestly, I would say the biggest problem with PGA Tour or LPGA Tour players, when you see people like David Duval is a great example. He took Tiger away from #1 in the world. He was the only one who was able to do that at his peak. And David hurt his wrist at some point. I believe it was in